Hey, fellow world builders. I'm Lewis Nichols, and you found your way to World Building Essentials and Exercises. We're talking about dragons this month, and we're starting with grand designs. You may not want dragons to be central in your Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I get that. They tend to take up a lot of space. However, if you want them to be important, this is the show for you. My goal is to inspire just one good idea for your own world building projects. If I can pull that off, I would appreciate a like and a sub. Dragons can fulfill a number of roles in your world and campaign. They can be adversaries, either end bosses, mid-game hurdles, or thugs for some greater power. They might be wandering monsters, trophy kills, or the targets of side quests. They might be NPCs, more like a powerful wizard or fighter than a monster. That might leave them in any of the categories above: friend, foe, boon, or bane. But they can also be patrons, quest givers, business partners, government officials, transportation, or merchants. Dragons make great scholars and can easily fill the role of the old sage from whom your players must seek out for advice. Best thing yet, they can fulfill all these roles at once. As individuals, each dragon can play their own part in your story. It's easy to foresee a world with dragon-ruled cities partially populated by draconic NPCs of all types, but also renegade dragons still living by a creed of hunting and pillage. There are so many possibilities. Case study. My Heston setting is a high mountainous region with lots of room to roam. The Heston Authority is the government, primarily overseen by the Velito of the region. You know Velito, the humans, tieflings, elves, dwarves, all those kinds of lovable races. There are dragons about, and their council is part of the authority. For most Hestonites, dragons are something that you run into once or twice a year, and you don't always get a good look. There are likely a few denizens of the region that just happen to have never seen one. On the other hand, there are dragons who rule fiefs just as the Velito nobles do. In the communities they see over, they are a daily sight. Yet there are dragons who isolate themselves from humanity. They take any excuse to raid, living by the mantra, men are prey, not partners. And there are plenty of adventurers willing to take them up on the offer, considering dragon skulls to be one of the ultimate trophies attainable in a warrior's life. There are rules and traditions for both sides to keep hostilities in check, but there are also times of tension. Once in the 10-year span we've played through so far, things threatened to get out of hand, and it all started with the mere existence of a dragon slayer weapon in the region, something the dragons took great offense to. It was a demon incursion that brought the two sides back together, and all the usual problems were swept under the rug in response to a common enemy. Years later, when the Authority went to war to annex a nearby river valley, several white dragons joined into the effort. The bad guys had their own dragon too, an ancient gold. The ancient white who fought with the Authority is a card-carrying member of the Macbeth Barbarians. Two other whites, a mated pair, did it for the paycheck. And while we're talking about Heston, might as well mention the premier artificer of the region happens to be a dragon, another ancient gold, living with his extended family. The party has faced a few dragons. They paid a toll in the early days to one adult green, later tracking it and killing it. They fought an adult black dragon and a pair of blues. They also have good relations with a few they've met along the way. I think that's my first piece of advice. Think about your dragon's motivations. Treat them as individuals, even if they are just meant to be marauding ravagers. Give them a bit of thought. These guys have lived long lives full of interesting experiences, and you don't get old by committing to battles to the death. That's enough about Heston. Let's make our next topic the sort of dragons that aren't exactly dragons. Page 379 of the new Monster Manual has a list of things the book classifies as dragons. Included are the classics, gold, silver, etc., but also kobolds, half-dragons, shadow dragons, pseudo-dragons, and more. I also strongly recommend using Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. It's easy enough to adopt into the 2024 rule set. Putting an emphasis on dragons doesn't mean that you need a huge variety of variations, but why not? Adding more types contributes to that sense of individualism that makes each dragon unique and memorable. I'm doing a whole bunch of videos for the next few months that will all talk about dragons. That's going to include shorts and long form videos focusing on major subjects. I have a feeling Dragon Month will turn into Dragon Early Summer, although I have been getting a tingle drawing me back into doing some work in fantasy military stuff. Point is, regular Friday episodes are pretty much a guarantee for the foreseeable future, and probably some bonus stuff too. If you're into Dragon content overload, do the stuff. Like, comment, and subscribe. Oh yeah, right. Kobolds, half dragons, draconians, and dragon followers. Those last two being out of Fizbins. And there's room for lots more. This can include any of the many imagined humanoid races considered to be dragons, or descended from dragons, or at least in some way dragon adjacent. Look, it's just dudes that look like dragons. Don't overthink it. Well, yeah, overthink it. That's what we do here. Kobolds, draconians, they can be friend or foe. Random encounters are, well, it's that whole range of options that we've talked about before. The only difference here is, opposed to a regular campaign, is that you need to think about them in advance. In a dragon-dominated world, if draconians come up on a random encounter, the players have never heard of them before, well, there's going to be some questions. Think about which ones, if any, you want in your world and what they're up to. Are they part of a loyal draconian army? Are they a race enslaved by dragons and over the centuries mutated to take on their current form? Maybe they used to be elves or something else. Are they unified? And if so, are they pro or anti-dragon? Do they hold special rights ensured by the dragon overlords? It's certainly possible they are fully integrated into their region's urban life, doing civilized things in civilized lands, just like everybody else. And maybe they are diversified, with different interests and lifestyles helping to populate the many factions of their and your world. From a mechanical point of view, these are the guys your party will have to deal with while the players get a feel for the world and the characters level up a bit. Name your dragons. Even if dragons are not central to your world, put a tag on them. First name, family name, and don't forget the titles. You can do this with other major monsters as well. It will inspire you to treat each encounter as special and make them more memorable to the party. It can also influence future encounters. Oh, great wise Findall the Gorger. Or might I say gorgeous? That might be more appropriate. We seek your aid in a quest to save these lands from the creeping death of Yogsvei. The dragon rumbles. I will help you, but only because the creeping death is a danger to us all. Oofsnir, the winged shadow, whose head is now mounted on your castle wall. He was my friend. I do not at all discourage Players vs. Dragons. In fact, just the opposite. It's one of the greatest parts of the game. But I am saying, these are all intelligent creatures with agendas. There are consequences, and consequences are the foundation of great campaigns. Next topic, the Dragonborn and other character creation concerns. 2024 lore says that the Dragonborn may or may not have been the product of the gods Bahamut and Tiamat, but they were definitely born of dragon eggs. 2014 was the same way, with more detail. Fizbins doesn't really get into the lore. This feels weird to me, as I consider dragons to have a strong family structure. For a species that doesn't have many children, it's weird to imagine the process that eggs were laid, altered, hatched, and raised. As a world builder, this is something you're going to have to think through for yourself. There's certainly nothing wrong with using the existing lore, but you can start from scratch and develop your own history of origins. You can also kind of bow out. For all my world building prowess, most of my playable species and most of my campaigns have existed for so long their beginnings are lost. Sure, culture groups will have roots, but not whole species. The point, once again, is you are the world building DM. Do what you want. I'm just here to inspire. There are plenty of rules around for dragon subclasses for many of the character classes. I bet there are even more online. Try D&D Beyond or other sources. If you have the time, compile a long list of options that you have reviewed and that you're okay with. Present them to the players in preparation for Session 0. Also, beef them up a smidge. If you want your dragons to be a hit, make the dragon classes tempting to players. An example might be a +2 to the DC for a Dragonborn's breath weapon. You can also increase the fly speed duration they get at 5th level. Give a dragon monk an extra key point. For draconic sorcerers, bump 3rd level resilience to an AC of 12 plus bonuses. You can do more, but be careful. You don't want to throw your game completely out of whack. You do want to encourage dragonish PCs, but not exclusively. Alright, big subject change. Can we actually talk about dragons now? Oh, where to start? What are the big picture world building questions affected by dragons? Many people consider dragons to be highly magical creatures. Do they make the magic of your world different? Maybe magical knowledge is controlled by dragons. Maybe all spells are activated by magical draconic ruins. Are the dragon gods just for dragons? Are there different gods for different beings? If different, what's the state of divine diplomacy? Velito religions might just be cults. Are the dragons at odds with other powerful forces? This could be fiends, fae, a number of things. What does that timeline look like? When did dragons come to power? Has it always been this way? Was there a revolution? How are things changing over time? Local issues are going to be even more numerous. What about government? I'm usually of the opinion that monarchy is unsustainable in fantasy, but dragon monarchies make sense. These are super powerful beings, very capable of holding power. I'll tell you one thing that's going to be different when dragons rule. Financial stability, it's going to be weak. Unless you give up on the horde trope, them big lizards are going to want to keep taxes high and spending down. They're going to be stingy with the purse strings, because a gold in the horde is worth 2 invested in infrastructure. They might invest in big civic projects, but only ones that are, let's say, collectible. Schools are for losers, but that new mega warship is just more treasure. Statues, art, jewelry, that's what you're getting, instead of roads and healthcare. How many dragons are around? Are towns overseen by adult dragons? Do just a few dragons rule the state and weaker creatures the municipalities? Are those lesser creatures Dragonborn or something else? What about kobold cabals running the borderlands and farming towns? In Heston, a state the size of Germany, I estimate about 20 ancients and over 100 adults. That's enough to cause a real mess if they all get mad at once. If you take on any world building project, you'll want to name at least 20 high-profile individuals around the realm. They might very well all be dragons in our case. You'll want to put in a minimum of 100 words each on your ancient dragons. Yeah, world building projects are always bigger than you think. Don't get overwhelmed. Divide it all up into small attainable pieces. Make progress when you can, and never delay a campaign because you need more prep. Speaking of big word counts, how do different factions feel about the dragons? Best practices is to have about 500 words on each of your major factions. You can do this as you go, focusing on the ones most relevant to your unfolding campaign. Part of that is going to be their top 3 faction allies and top 3 most opposed. Does your premier smugglers guild feel any certain way about the big reptiles? Do they smuggle dragon bones? Are they run by a dragon? Or is it both? What if they were all just big dummies? You guys have options, you know. Don't rule anything out as you're getting started. So what if dragons are important, but only because they are largely domesticated? make them a little bit dumber and tone down their ambition, greed, and so forth. Especially in a high dev world, dragons might be transportation services and mounts for top air cav. Maybe there are tens of thousands around, but they're more like elephants in India. They're big culturally, iconic even, but ultimately just, well, domesticated. I don't think this is something I would ever do, but I want to stress for the millionth time, do what you want. Your world, your rules. And a word on alignments. Do I have to say it? I don't use them. Still, this is something to think about. For many of us, a friendly red is very uncomfortable to conceive of. The lexicon of D&D dragons have been driven into our heads for decades. Now, yes, I did say that in my game, the gold was the bad guy, and he fought a white who was with the good guys. However, this is all from a party's point of view. Heston really isn't about good versus evil. It's more about, it's complicated. But if you boil the annexation of the Dareberg River Valley down to alignments, it was more of a lawful versus chaotic, and lawful was bad. It's complicated. Sometimes it's not about alignments, it's just about resource accumulation. All right, what else? Let's just boil this all the way down to the most simple concept of the video. Are you ready for this? If you want dragons to be important in the game, make sure dragons are important in the game. Every session, ask yourself if you've included a dragon as a friendly NPC or an enemy. When's the last time a dragon or dragon-like creature made an appearance? For each encounter, scene, setting piece, all the things that make up the components of your sessions, think about your dragon theme and see if you can wedge one in. In the background, have a bard telling a story of a tale, a local dragon's great victory. Or maybe the party arrives in town to find a celebration. A local dragon has aged up to young adult, and there will be cheese crackers, and possibly some seriously roasted goat. This is very much the beginning of a serious look at dragons. We're going to develop individuals, world build some locations, talk about running them in combat. You remember the 3 months of island videos that y'all finally got sick of? We're going to do the same thing with dragons. Thanks everybody for stopping by. You are all amazing people. You are important. I'm glad each and every one of you are in this world. If you have a moment, do the stuff. Like, subscribe, and comment. I cannot tell you how much power that you have over my choices in programming for this station. After a crazy January, we are suffering a slump, and I do blame myself. So I plan on pushing some quality and some quantity for as long as I can maintain my sanity. I'll see you all next time, Friday if not sooner. So have a great rest of the day. Cheers.